Hey everybody. A few days ago I went out to Prettyboy Reservoir and I collected a beautiful piece of wood, and it still floated when I brought it home and put it in the tank, and as you can see right here, it is starting to get waterlogged and it is starting to sink, and I'm really excited because it's got some beautiful grain on it and some really nice dark color. It's a really pretty piece of wood. So I've been looking for a piece of wood to go in my little 20-gallon tank that I've just cycled in. And ideally what I want is, in my mind, I can see the remains of an old tree that's rotted away underwater, and it's got sort of the root structure that almost look like fins going down the side of it, and just a withered away old tree root. I see them all over the place. In fact, I found one last night that was absolutely stunning. It was lying on its side and it was just so beautiful. But it was a whole entire tree stump. It was a full-size tree stump. I would have needed heavy equipment and a barge to bring it home, and then of course I would have had no place to put it. So I'm looking for something like that, only just sort of scaled down. The problem with that is, in order to really get that shape and structure, you kind of need to be that big and then have years and years of weathering wear it down into those thin, almost vein-like, where the roots start to spread out. Anything that's small, it's just going to look like a small kind of sapling. I've got a couple of those in my 125-gallon New World tank. My regular viewers will be familiar with that. I just brought one of those home the other day, in fact. It's cool looking. I like it. It's not what I'm looking for in this particular tank, my 20-gallon tank. So last night I was out paddling around, just kind of making my way along the shoreline, as I like to do. I like to look at all the little flowers and plants and, whatever, just enjoying myself. And I found a section of an old tree root that is above ground, so I don't think it's going to be waterlogged, and it's a whole entire tree root, but it's sort of broken into sections and pieces and has rocks sticking up through it. And I think I might be able to either cut a section out of it or break a chunk off so it looks even more natural. I don't really like the cut wood look, but if we can break a chunk off of that, or cut a chunk off of that or something, I might be able to bring that home and do something with that just as a close substitute. It'll be a really good looking piece of wood. And I just want to put some kind of wood in that 20-gallon tank so that I can attach some plants to it or something and we can get started. But I don't want to just grab a stick off the bottom of the reservoir. I want something that's going to be good looking and is going to stay in that tank as the centerpiece. For me, just you have to have wood in a fish tank as far as I'm concerned. None of my fish tanks don't have wood in them. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to paddle on out there. We're going to do sort of an indoor-outdoor video. We'll do a little bit of fast forwarding so you can get to see, the trip up there and all that kind of stuff. But I won't waste a ton of time, on the way there. But we are going to go out. We are going to try to get it, see what we can do. It's in kind of a precarious place, but we'll talk about all that once we get underway. So you sit there and we will get going. All right, everybody. Now, I live on the opposite side of the reservoir from where the boat launch is, so we have to cross over the Beckleysville Road Bridge, which we are doing right here. And the piece of wood that we're going to be looking at is just on the other side of this bridge. There's a parking area. If we were to park there and make our way down to the water's edge, somewhere along that water's edge is where this was. So I'm not going to try to do that though, because it's really steep. There's almost no shoreline, and then the shoreline drops off like one step out from the edge of the shore and you're swimming. It's 15 feet deep almost immediately. It's like a cliff. So we're definitely going to go approach it by water, which means we have to go all the way around and about, and we're actually going to come full circle and come back under the bridge. But first we have to sort of loop around. We're going to cross over one more small bridge as we cross over the cove where the boat launch is. But from there we're going to come back out around on the water and go right back to where we just were. You know, it's somewhere along this shoreline. That might be it right there. I only got a glimpse of it as I was going past last night. Let's go down here a little bit and see if we can see anything else, and then we'll come back to that. I'm pretty sure that was it. Now, if we went up that trail right there, that is the parking area up by the bridge we crossed on the way in here. So I'm pretty sure that piece we just looked at was what I saw last night. Ooh, that's a good looking piece over there. Let's see if we can get around to that. So the whole entire structure. I don't know if I'll be able to get to that or not. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. That's still rooted in. That is a fantastic looking piece of wood though. Alright, let's go back. Get the one I was looking at. It's up here. Find it again. I think I see it. All the waves die down. This piece right here. Hold on, let me switch cameras to my phone camera and we'll be able to get a better look at this. All right. So this is the piece of wood I saw last night. We're going to see if we can't get some part of this. It's going to be hard to maintain my position where we're sitting with one hand here, but we're going to try. But if you look closely at it, you can see it's got rocks that are coming up through it. It's got rocks that are growing sort of into it. I'd love to get that piece right there that's got that rock sort of grown into the wood. And if you look under the water, you can see all that beautiful texture and all of that beautiful grain in the woodwork. This right here is all part of it. It's a nice little plug for Aquabound paddles. This piece right here might be part of it. But unfortunately, as I was saying as we came in, not a whole lot of room for me to maneuver around. So let me get parked. And I got about that much little bit of area to stand. Otherwise, it gets really deep really quickly. So let me go ahead and do that, and we'll get my little saw out and we'll put our hands on that and see what we can do. might actually come loose. Well, let's take some of these big rocks out of it. There we go. That is such a fantastic piece. Oh, I wish I could keep the whole thing. There's no way this is even going to fit in my 20-gallon, but I'm going to try to cut a chunk of this out with that rock growing in there. And we'll be able to do something. So let's get my saw and see what we can do. As much as I hate to cut this piece here, that's got to go. This I think I can break off actually. Now, we're working with this piece. Man, that's almost something I'd like to bring home to my 125. Man, it looks so good. I'm really reluctant to even cut this up anymore. I wouldn't be able to get this home on that kayak. But now that I've actually gotten out here and had a look at this, it's really, really good looking piece of wood. I wish I could position it somewhere where you could see it better. But that would be something I'd have to come out here with my other kayak to even bring that back. I don't know, I might be able to put that on the front of the kayak and take it back. And then what we would do with that once we got it to the house, I don't know. It might go in my 125. I think I would have to remove some of the stuff that's in there already to get that to fit though. All right, let me see if I can do this. All right, everybody. Now, I know this is not the angle we will be looking at it once it's sitting in a tank somewhere, but I wanted to sit it out somewhere in the sunlight, and my tailgate is not in the sun right now. So I am just loving this. As you look more closely, you'll start to notice all the little details. I've got some moss growing on it already. That rock we'll have a look at in a minute, but I just noticed there I've got a little mushroom growing on it. And the texture to this thing is just absolutely fantastic. Little holes and everything go all through it. If we roll it up this way and look at the underside, you've got all that beautiful color and all that beautiful wood grain. So that just looks fantastic. And then if we turn it around, we look on the inside, we can actually see where that rock comes through from one side to the other. So I was thinking about this. Oh, look, we got another rock growing into it right there, which I didn't even notice. That's kind of on the underside. But yeah, there's a rock growing up in, or I should say the root grew around the rock. The rock's not really growing into the piece of wood. So this break is no big deal at all. That'll, you know, patina over. That'll get dark. You won't even be able to tell the break is there. I don't like this, so I might have to do something to sort of make that look more broken. We can get something to grow on that or something maybe. But what I was thinking about on the way back to the boat launch here is, imagine that in my 40 native tank. I just kind of slapped that tank together and didn't really think about the wood that I was putting in there. I put that little sort of tree-like thing that I had built in there, but I'm not married to that. I could pull that out of there, stuff it in the corner, and then we could have this as the real showpiece in there. Imagine seeing those gambusia swimming in and out of all those little nooks and crannies and swimming through that piece of wood. Imagine the crayfish crawling around on that. That could look really, really exciting. So I don't know exactly where this is going to end up just yet, or what we're going to do with it. But we've got it, and now we're going to get it home, and I guess at the very least we'll have a look at it back at the house. Again, I don't necessarily think we're going to be seeing this in the tank in this video. I think coming out here to get this was today's goal. So let me get this loaded up into the truck. I've actually got a little more fishing to do. I'm not quite done out here yet, but I wanted to get this done and get it secure in the truck before I go out and relax. So I'm going to go do that and have a little bit of fishing, and then I will see you back at the house where we can have another look at this, maybe measure it and see what tanks this will fit in. All right, everybody, here we are back at the tank. And while it took a little bit of finagling to get it in there, I got it in there. I got the entire thing in there without having to break it up or do anything else to it, with the exception of put some rocks on it to balance it, but we'll get to that in just a minute. So I used to have my homemade little tree that I had in there with the hose attached to it, and that's where we got our little water fountain at the top. And so I had to cut the filter pump and the hose off, remove the tree, and I had to move around the power heads in the back. I have two power heads in the back left corner. They're fairly small. Each one is 240 gallons per hour, and one sort of faces down and one sort of faces outwards and upwards. And so I had to wiggle them around a little bit to get it in there, but again, I got it in there. And when I came down this morning, it is now the next day, when I came down this morning and turned the lights on, the larger of the two crayfish, this is the smaller of the two that I know are still in the tank. There might be a third one, but I'm not sure yet. I haven't seen all three together, but I know there's two, and that is the smaller one we're looking at now. And the larger one was actually just hanging out up in the... Thought he was in there again for a moment. I had to double check and look. So the way the fish swim in and out of it, I'm absolutely loving. I know the lighting does not do it real justice. It looks a little better to me than it does on camera, especially with the glare on the glass. but it is still really dark under there. I don't really get a lot of the beauty. There's the larger of the crayfish right there. So that was the one that was climbing up and hanging out on the woodwork this morning when I came down and turned the lights on. So there's that one. There's this one. And now if we see a third, even smaller one in the tank during this video, that'll be confirmation that all three of them are still alive. So I was able to position it in the way I wanted to. We still have the rock that was in the middle of it. Unfortunately, the other side of the rock is back here somewhere, and we're not going to be able to see that. But the moss that was growing on it is still there. I simply put this piece of water sprite there to kind of cover up the way that hose sticks out. We will be putting a new piece of hose on there. I don't know exactly how we're going to get it on there, but we will put a new piece of hose on there. And then the rest of what I had to do was it wanted to roll forward. And so I had to put a couple rocks all the way in the back, which is fine because this is where I cut the piece. And there's actually a cut piece sticking straight up. And with these rocks sitting on it, it actually covers that up, weights it down. And if you'll notice, those rocks look very, very similar to this rock because it's all the same kind of rocks and woodwork and everything. So whether these came out of my yard, which is where these came from, or grown into this tree at Prettyboy Reservoir from God knows how long ago, they're basically the same rocks. So they look perfectly natural right there. And then I also put this bigger one in there to sort of help weight the back of it down as well. And then that also sort of simulates the way we found it with all those big rocks kind of down and through all the nooks and crannies. So I'm really happy with the way it looks. I think it looks great. I didn't do anything at all to it when I brought it home. I pulled it out of my truck. I carried it down here. I drained a bunch of water out of the tank so that the tank wouldn't overflow when I put it in there. And then I started angling in it and finagling it and wiggling it. And of course I had to remove my little faux tree down here. Basically just a tree branch that I cut the bottom of and screwed it to a piece of slate. You can see the metal plate I used to screw it on. There's all rusty. And then I ran some little eye hooks in the back and then put some zip ties, and that's what held that rubber hose or that vinyl hose in place. And then I just had the hose kind of sticking out there. So this had cut ends all over it. Every single end on there was cut off. This was literally a branch that fell out of a tree in my backyard, and I saw potential for a chunk of a very large branch, and so I cut all the parts out of it I didn't like, and it left me with that. And so now that's gone, and in its place is this big beautiful piece of wood. So who knows, might not stay here too terribly long. It might prove to be too big and bulky, and it may, you know, I don't know, we'll have to wait and see. Everything is malleable. Nothing's carved in granite here. If I want to change it up, I can change it up. And that's one of the things I like about this hobby and being able to do these kind of things of just running out and getting different pieces of wood. I can just change it up. I can go grab some different wood. I can get some different rocks. And in this tank, I can even grab different stock, and I can change the stock up whenever I feel like it. So there you go. There's our little adventure, and I think it was well worth it considering what we brought home. I don't think it would even be possible to find something like that in a store, especially considering the living moss growing on it already and the size of it and everything. That's just not something you're going to find growing, you know, in a store. It's certainly not something I'd be able to afford if we did find it. So a lot of fun, and we brought back a fantastic piece of wood that I think is going to look really good in the tank as it starts to grow and to develop. My only question now is how much, you know, water should I put in there? Where should that water line be in relation to the piece of woodwork? So I don't know yet. I'm definitely not going to fill it all the way up just yet. We're going to wait and see how it looks with the woodwork half emergent, and we'll just go from there. We'll see what we think. So leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Thanks for joining me. Hope you had fun. I know I did, and I will see you real soon in the next one.